Hey everyone, it's Mike from OverGround here, and today we've prepared a little kind of vlog slash discussion video today to showcase the steps that we took about how to make our own proxies as we prepare for the English launch of the Digimon trading card game. And this is kind of just a small little video to show how we currently decided to build our decks and how we want to test out new strategies as new leaks kind of kept getting revealed. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So, of course, this could not have been done without the super tremendous hard work that was being put in by the translation team. So there are so many people that have worked so hard to create English proxies for the game, and there's so many people we need to thank. So I don't think I have a huge list of people that I can get into, but I know people like everyone in the DigimonCard.dev team. I believe that's Orange Swim in them. If not just all of him completely, and everyone on the Discord as well that works tirelessly to make sure that we have proxies and translations very quickly, so we can pick up on new leaks right away and we can try new cards out. You guys are awesome, you guys are great, and without your help we wouldn't have been able to do any of this. So huge shout out to you guys, and yeah, so thanks for all the hard work. So we were asking around the community really early on about the different ways in which people were making proxies. And we got a bunch of different answers, but usually the average was that it was some combination of printing like a 9 or 12 grid onto a sheet of paper, either laminating it and cutting it, or cutting it with a pair of scissors, or using the card that you cut out of that sheet and then putting it into a sleeve behind another back. So or some people were doing is that they weren't actually bothering printing out the image at all. They literally just print out a little blurb of the text and the name and the cost and everything, and they would just put that inside of a sleeve as well. So there was a bunch of different kind of ways among the community that people were kind of taking advantage of using proxies for the time being as we awaited for the English launch. So we were scratching our heads at how we could potentially print a lot of decks very quickly so we could jump in and test everything that we want to test. And one day we were walking through Staples, which is a Canadian printing and business store, and we came across the business card section, and we had a bit of a eureka moment, and we thought to ourselves, you know what, business card stock is, not only is it perforated, but it's also thicker than standard paper. So what would help us do is that we could actually kill two birds with one stone. We could pop out the cards using the perforations to skip the cutting process, and then we wouldn't have to laminate or use any extra cards as backing, because we could actually use the thickness of the stock to just slide that directly into a sleeve. So yeah, so that was kind of our idea. It was kind of a 1-2 punch, super easy way to make our own proxies. And we wanted to make proxies as quickly and efficiently as possible because we wanted to kind of jump right into content, because we felt that we were already kind of lagging in terms of content that had been made for Digimon up to this point. And with set 3 leaks pending on the horizon, we were afraid that we would actually be further behind on deck lists that we wanted to build based on further archetypes that were being spoiled. So that was our idea on how we wanted to create our proxies. Now, of course, theory into practice are always two different things. So we decided to test our theory on a standard pack of business cards first. So we just kind of picked up a cheap $15 Avery set. And first, it should be noted that standard gaming cards, which Digimon is the size of, which is the same size of things like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Force of Will, Bakugan, not smaller size like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Vanguard, for example. They're 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and the standard business card size is 2 inches by 3.5 inches. So we knew right out of the gate that the sizing was actually going to be an issue, but we wanted to just buy the pack anyway to test to see if we could actually print onto the stock successfully, and then if that was successful, we could then move on to try bigger and better sizes. So we created a template, and we found it online for the Avery business card paper, and we resized the images to be the proper 2 by 3.5. We inputted them all into the proper margins, then we did our first test print. And as you can see, the quality came out really well. This is something we were afraid of, because we printed these on an inkjet printer, originally just one of printers that we had at home, and ideally we would have wanted to print this on laser paper. Now, why is laser paper better? Well, the color just really pops, and it would be awesome to look at, and it would really look amazing on camera, and we wanted to be able to makes it so that our cards were easy to distinguish on video, especially if we were making a video that had very little commentary or very little additional editing. We wanted to make sure that the matches that we had could potentially stand alone on their own, and everyone could follow along at home and know exactly what cards were being played. So, as you can see though, the size was less than optimal, and although we could potentially use these cards to play, it was a lot harder to sleeve them since they were much smaller size, and you could probably actually fit 2 of them within one standard sleeve, which isn't great at all. So we said, okay, well, what are we going to do? And we did a little bit of searching online and on the Staples website and other business websites that we could find, and we came across a company that actually sold perforated paper that was the appropriate size for gaming cards. This was the 2.5 by 3.5, and we were a little shocked at the price. So the Avery business cardstock we bought was like $15, and we got like 15 or 20 pages, which is fine. This one was 1,000 sheets, so we're thinking, okay, on a standard 3x3 grid, that's 9 cards. At 1,000 sheets, that's 9,000 cards we could print. So we're like, this is kind of worth the investment price, because if this proxy method was successful, we essentially future-proofed all future proxies as long as we still had sheets to use. This meant that at the time that we ordered this, not a single leak from set 3 had actually been revealed. So our thought process was, as set 3 leaks get revealed, not only can we build all decks in the current format, but we also have everything from set 3 kind of future-proof that we could print with all these additional sheets that we'd have on hand. And furthermore, as things get released and spoiled in Japan for like set 4 and 5 and etc., we could be able to test those cards in real time with the current English card pool with all these sheets that we had at our disposal. So that was that thought. So we ordered that. This is where things get a little disappointing. Unfortunately, it took us almost 3 weeks to receive the paper in the first place, which not only severely delayed the creation of this video, because we were hoping to kind of make a step-by-step guide on how we did our proxies, but it also delayed our testing environment that in which we wanted to get together and actually sit down and play the game and learn. And it also delayed every single bit of content that we wanted to create up to this point, and set us even further back and put us even further behind. And now, after this point, set 3 spoilers were starting to just flood in, and the meta and the card pool was immediately starting to shift. So all the decks that we had kind of organized to ourselves based on the current card pool that we had found automatically had to be scrapped so that we could build better and more modern decks for good content. And the second part that really bothered us is that we were really disheartened to find out that when the paper came in, it's just regular letter paper. It wasn't business card stock or anything. It wasn't the thickness that kind of we were promised or expecting. So that was the second challenge. So what were we supposed to do? Suddenly, all this extra work that we were trying to avoid in terms of making proxies to try to make them as quickly and efficiently as possible ended up falling into our lap regardless, and we actually ended up making more work for ourselves than necessary. So instead of being able to just pop out the card, we now had to carefully tear apart the edges, and we had to tear all the individual cards out, and then the thickness that we were hoping for had now been vanished, so we had to go back to that option of, do we use an extra card as a back, or do we just laminate them as well? So thankfully, I play a lot of card games in my house, and I was able to kind of compare and contrast the thickness of all the different standard cards that I had, and which ones would be the best to continue our little project. So, we'd already spent this much money on getting the perforated paper, so we were already kind of, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I found that Force of Will cards actually had the best thickness compared to most of the standard games, and I found that they were the best to kind of work in harmony with the thinness of the perforated paper. So I just want to show a quick shot here of the thickness of FOW cards versus another card game like Bakugan, for example. And I still had a lot of Force of Will cards left over from the last venture that I had playing it, so it was kind of perfect for backing the handful of proxy decks and all the future proxies that we want to make for Digimon. So after a lot of trial and error, after kind of figuring out how we're actually going to create the proxies, or put them into a physical space, we're able to create a 3x3 template that could properly print over this new perforated paper, because the margins were a little wonky, and we had to make sure that as it printed specifically through the margins. So as you can see with this TK, for example, we want to make sure that it literally fell right in within the frame. So there was a lot of trial and error there, but eventually we kind of figured it out. And it still isn't perfect. Sometimes as we're ripping cards out, there'll be like a very, very, very thin line that kind of gets missed or gets lost. But it's still a much straighter shot than if we were to use like a paper cutter or scissors or something like that. So we're still very happy with the final product, and we're still kind of figuring out how we want to get the template a little bit more accurate as we keep going on. So we saved all the decks that we'd built on a flash drive, and we went back to Staples. So Staples has a bunch of laser printers available for public use. It's kind of a big printing center that they have, and all we had to do was plug in our flash drive and go to work. So unfortunately, we had a lot of issues with formatting. We don't actually have Microsoft Office at home, so we actually use OpenOffice. And when we took that into Staples, we found out that they couldn't open it with OpenOffice; they had to open it with Word. So when we reformatted everything into doc files and we opened it, we actually had a lot of files that were corrupted. So we kind of went through a lot of trial and error in that respect as well, until we finally landed on a PDF saving. We saved everything as a PDF, and now we could finally take our flash drive in and we could open up the files and we could get everything uncorrupted and get all the sheets to show up on their screens proper. So we worked fast to kind of print as many decks as we could in laser, but the first time we went there, we loaded the perforated paper into the printer ourselves, and on the second run, it actually jammed the printer. Oh no, now what do we do? So, as you'd expect, we kind of packed it up, went home, went back to the drawing board, because we talked to people at Staples and they said that we can't actually load the papers through that printer specifically. It would have had to be done through another way. So, eventually Adam ended up going back to Staples on his own time, chatted with the people who worked in the printing center proper, and they actually were able to set up printing from their own company printers as opposed to us using the public printers. So when we finally got that down, we figured that, hey, from this point forward, now when we go to Staples and we want to print more decks, we got to talk to the people and we got to use their printers first. So in the meantime, waiting for all of that to resolve, I ended up printing about 3 or 4 more decks at home using the inkjet just to have something to play with, because I was getting so desperate and tired of waiting around to make proxies. So we ended up making 3 complete decks that have now since been kind of retooled and rejiggered based on set 3 leaks. And yeah, but I finally actually had to sit down and have a physical game, and I fell in love. No longer did I have to yearn over playing the game by watching other people's YouTube videos or watching other people play on like Untapped or Tabletop Simulator or something like that. So it was kind of a very, very happy, heart enlarged moment, because I was just so excited and elated to sit down and play with these cards. And it felt so real by having the proxy in front of you, because by sliding the proxy behind the Force of Will card and into the actual sleeve, you finally have that like tactile sensation, and I prefer playing card games in real life as opposed to playing them online, so that tactile sensation was very satisfying. That's the word I want. So yeah, so now we've finally been able to print a bunch of decks with the laser printer quality using the perforated paper, and unfortunately what started out as a project to save time and not work as hard, we want to work smarter, not harder, ended up being almost a month's worth of work, where we worked way harder than we were expecting. But you know what? The end result looks amazing, and I can't wait to show you guys on camera how everything looks. We just received our mats from Cho Sugoi as well, the 2-player retro mats. We got a gray one and we got a red and blue one as well, and we are super excited to start recording games on those things. They're just so beautiful, and big shout out to them for the amazing quality of the mats that they made. So following this video, look forward to our Learn With Me series. This is where Adam and I sat down and played the game kind of basically for the first time with 2 decks that we were really excited about. So that is the blue Imperial Dramon deck and the yellow Shine Greymon deck. These 2 deck profiles are probably going to be up soon as well, and then you're going to watch the first video of us just kind of sitting down and going for broke and just trying everything out for the first time. It's fun, it's super raw, there's a ton of misplays, but that's the whole point of learning to play the game, right? We're just kind of sitting down and learning as we go and getting better as we go, hopefully. So after we kind of get past the learning stage and that bump, we're going to start shifting into more competitive content and more of a focus on a competitive version of Digimon to the best of our capabilities. So yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for going on this adventure with us. I hope you enjoyed watching us kind of watching our struggle to develop our own proxies, and I hope you enjoyed the lengths in which we went and the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into finally being able to make a cool physical representation of this franchise that we love in this game that we were so excited to try. So yeah, let us know in the comments what deck you'd like us to build now that you know that we have this process down pat. And I hope that you are looking forward to seeing us play with the decks that you suggest and the decks that we build ourselves. So again, this is Mike from OverGround, and have a good one, guys. Take care.